Thank you, folks. We're honored to have here I'll start with the director of the film, Julien Menanteau. Julien, thank you so much for being here. Come join us. And please welcome Abood Cohen. Abood, thank you for being here. To lead this conversation, we are forever grateful to our partners at the New Israel Fund. Please welcome Elisheva Goldberg.
So guys, hi everyone. Thank you all so much for being here. It's a pleasure. What a film. So Abood, you said that this was the first time you were going to see this film on the big screen. How was that?
I probably waited like 3 years to watch this on a big screen. It was really brilliant. Beautiful job, Julien.
So let's start from the beginning. How did you come up with the idea to make this film, and how did you guys meet?
Hello, everybody. How? I made documentary studies in ethnographic cinema and everything, and I always been interested by small group of people. So I've been in Israel, and I wanted to see what about the Samaritans, and I only knew the Good Samaritans, and that's it. And I went there, and I met Abood. You were like 20, 21 at the time, a kid. And the connection was extraordinary. We really like each other. I went back, but I have the idea of making a movie like maybe 1 year after that. We stay in touch, and yeah, we decided to start something. I didn't know what kind of movie it will be, but I knew that Abood was there, and when I met Brito, it was like a gift for me, because I had the diplomatic guy, the smart guy, and the flying stars. And for me, it was brilliant, because I wanted to make like a feature movie. That's why we made like with the music and everything, not a classic documentary. And with Abood and Brito, I had my Laurel and Hardy, so it was beautiful for me.
And you had all the access in the world. They just brought you in everywhere.
Yeah, because we are kind of the same generation. He's 10 years younger than me, but yeah, I think that's why they accept me, maybe. And maybe they accept me because I came like Sarfati, and I have no idea of
French, Sarfati.
Yeah. So maybe it was, how do you say it? Like nobody is a prophet in his own country. So it was like easy for me because I have no preconceived
notions. Okay. Thank you all for.
Yeah.
I have one more question for you, and then we'll move on to Abood. So that last scene is quite arresting, and it is a little bit cinematic, and it has a lot of flair, and I'm really curious about your choice. You sort of get a sense that, here we have these two guys who we've followed for a while. They have some mixed feelings about this place that they live in, but they're still there. What was the thought about that last scene?
It was the last night of shooting. Like, really. And we decided to go up on the mountain. I saw them dancing before, and I was like, okay, let's dance for this last day with Adi Moses, the cinematographer. And we went there, and we started to dance on the mountain, and we were like, okay, let's shoot a bit. And when we edited the movie, it was like obvious that it will be the end of the movie. They are on the sacred mountain. They are also on the top of the world, and they are alive. Yeah.
Thank you. Abood, so this is such an interesting film. What was it like to be followed around for, how long did this take?
It was, I think I was followed around 3 weeks.
Oh, I don't know why I expected
Yeah,
it to be
at the end, but I shot it before all the ceremonials and festivity. But we shot like during 2 years for 2 months, I think.
Yeah, it was mainly 3 weeks.
The last shooting was 3 weeks, and we made a lot of things in 3 weeks.
So your otherwise normal life became...
It was a really interesting experience. It made me more self-aware, definitely, of what are my actions going to be during the day. And I remember having to not forget to bring the mic out when I go to the bathroom, something like that. And it was really nice. I felt like sometimes I forgot that there was a camera even behind me. So it was really interesting also to see what are the footage, what exact pictures are going to be used in the film. It was really interesting.
And also we were like just two making the movie, like Adi, the cinematographer, and I did the sound. So it was good because we were free and able to follow them on the back of the car, for example.
So interesting, maybe for some of us who don't know as much about the Samaritans, and obviously we're here to learn, can you tell us a little bit about, you mentioned in the very beginning, we get like a moment where you talk about like forced migrations and all kinds of tragedies that your community underwent and at some point became, a total of 100 people. Give us like a quick synopsis of your 3,000-year history.
Well, a quick synopsis would be...
You get 2 minutes.
I think a quick synopsis would be, it's that we had our own Holocaust in a way. The Samaritans, one of the things that happened to them is that they were not exiled like the Jewish people. I think 7 million Jewish people were exiled, but the Samaritans really remained in the Holy Land mostly. They were minor exiles, and that caused, obviously, the Samaritans to face many nations that came to control the area, so they were affected negatively by that, especially against the Byzantines. The Samaritans were really troublemakers. Any nation that came, they used to do a revolt against them, especially the Byzantines. They wanted to build a Christian church on top of Mount Gerizim. And
Man.
That's okay. And yeah, eventually 3 revolts led the Byzantines to kill like over half the population at that time. Wow. And we're super lucky to be alive, really, 100 years ago from 140 almost.
Yeah, it's really interesting as a Jewish person to watch this film and to think about the history that your community has undergone. But also more than that, to kind of identify with some of the symbols, the kippot, you mentioned that you keep kosher in some form, and the holidays, that all these things are sort of very, very familiar and very identifiable as Jewish, and yet the lifestyle is Palestinian, as you say in the film. Can you just tell us a little more about that, what that's like?
It's true. We do have the same holidays as the Jewish people. We have Passovers, Sukkot, Yom Kippur, all these kind of festivals. But even though we do celebrate them differently, but it still makes like a bridge of connection between us and the Jewish people, definitely. And there's many Israeli friends who told me that you guys kept like a good. I think they meant like a good connection to our old traditions, their old traditions, and it's really nice to be able to kind of keep those traditions alive, definitely. But we do feel like we've also been affected by the Palestinian culture. Obviously, we lived with the Palestinians for over 1,500 years, maybe. So I always say also that we have always a foot in the old world and a foot in the new world. So it's nice that we're able to have kept them. And by the way, the word Samaritan, it means keepers or guardians. Samari is Shamari in ancient Hebrew, and it means keepers. So we have to live up to our name, as they say.
Yeah. I'll ask one more question. Maybe we'll start taking questions from the audience. The really interesting twist for me was to see these Ukrainian women who have married Samaritan men and now have these children who speak both languages and who are growing up in this... 5 languages.
Arabic, Hebrew, ancient Hebrew, English, and Ukrainian.
Wild.
Well, yeah.
Wild. So, I don't know if you can give us a little bit more than the film did about the history behind that and the story of that. But I think that, I'm certainly fascinated and curious.
Well, yeah, it really started with the first person who had the guts to go to the high priest and tell him I am in love with a Ukrainian woman in my job, and that was a new step because normally you would have chosen an Israeli woman and make a relationship with her, and then there was like 2-3 Ukrainians, and I think I always say they proved themselves to be good Samaritans, if you know what I mean, pun intended. I think also because it wouldn't be a really nice idea to go to Ukraine, to any like Germany or any other country, and then bring the woman here, because when you bring a Ukrainian woman, she will hang out with the Ukrainians who are already in the mountains, speak Ukrainian with them, and they will teach her how to be a Samaritan and keep all the traditions. And this is how it started, I think. And
So it started with a Ukrainian woman who was living in Israel, who a Samaritan was working with.
probably that's why the main reason, I would say. But you'd see this kind of practice in also, I think, in Jewish communities for it to go to Ukrainians. And don't forget the fact that it also opened up the genetic pool in the population, and now we have new genes in the community.
And the big difference between Samaritan and Jews is that the religion passed through the man, the father. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. You're not a Samaritan only from a Samaritan mother. It goes both ways.
Great. Yes, in the middle there. I don't know if that's an identifying space, but
Sir,
Phone for you.
please. Mike.
What happened 40 years ago that brought the community to Har Gerizim?
Why did we go from Nablus to Mount Gerizim is your question. Well, there was probably more than a few reasons. I think the main reason is because our community started to grow in Nablus, and we lived in a kind of a crowded area. And as a Samaritan family wouldn't want to live away from the community. You wouldn't want to live 20 kilometers away. Like, how would you come to the synagogue each Saturday or something like that? And then the second reason, I think, is because the second Intifada proved that it was a little bit too much for us to be crushed in between what's happening. And at this time, at this numbers, it was also we were really vulnerable at this time. And on top of that, we had a few help, I think, from the Jordanians who bought us a few lands on Mount Gerizim also, so we can move there.
The King Hussein of
Hussein, yes.
Jordania gave you the land.
King Hussein, he also gave us he also helped us get the Jordanian ID, which we haven't used so much, to be honest, but it's cool to say we have 3 IDs.
Thank you. I've heard that the Samaritans have a different version of the Torah, and I wonder how did that happen in Old Testament times, let's say the times of the kingdoms, were the Samaritans, they existed then, but were they always considered a separate sect? Because I don't think the Jews and Samaritans, well, the Samaritans I think are Jewish, but the mainstream Jews and Samaritans didn't get along. So I wonder how do the Samaritans get a different version of the Torah, and were they considered outsiders or not members of the 12 tribes?
Well, first of all, it all started after the conflict, the split between the Israelites. There's just the split of the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah, the north and the southern, between Rehoboam and Jeroboam. This whole conflict started over there because of different reasons, really. There was the most important difference was where should the ark be built. The Samaritans believed it should be on Mount Gerizim, and the Jewish people believed it should be in Jerusalem. And this whole differences kind of spiraled into many wars between the Jewish people and the Samaritans, and I don't exactly know what caused the differences between the Torahs, but there are about 5,000 small differences between words, but 20 small differences, the biggest difference being in the 10 Commandments. And but overall, if you open both Torahs, we have almost all like the same 5 books. We also use ancient Hebrew, if you noticed, which is different than Assyrian Hebrew, which the Jewish people use. And there's many Torahs that has been found, especially in the old Dead Sea Scrolls, that has been related to Samaritans, which caused many scholars to become more interested in this version of the Torah. So.
Was there always a conflict between the
Sir.
Was there always a conflict between Jews and Samaritans?
Well, after the conflict, after the split, there was differences, and you can see that in a really famous Christian story of Jesus coming to the Samaritan woman who was at Jacob's well, and he asked for water. She told him, "Wait, you're asking me for water? Aren't you Jewish? I'm a Samaritan." So you see, this was going on even 2,000 years ago, Although today the Israelis love us. They love our tahini. We have a really famous tahini
It's
also.
really good.
And they also know a famous singer, Sofi Tzedaka. So.
You can get the tchina in New York.
Oh, yeah. It's called Har Bracha. Sorry, am I allowed to advertise? Sorry.
I have two questions. One, what is the meaning of dressing white? And the second is the economy of your community. If you can talk about this.
Tchina.
Sorry? The economy. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, mainly we dress white because it was one of the things that the priest used to wear in the tabernacle, in the times of the tabernacle. But mostly when you saw in the Passover, there's two reasons. One is the unity, that there's a unity in the community. No one is poor, nor is rich. There's no hierarchy, if you know what I mean. And there's also like a symbolic meaning of the clean stall, like without sins. That's how it's really is seen in the community. Economically speaking, we are doing great because of one main reason, especially the ones who live on Mount Gerizim, because we have 2 IDs. This means we can work in Israel, but buy our things from Nablus. And you see high salaries, low prices, that's always a good thing. If you think about it, a land that would cost, say, like 200,000 shekels in Nablus, in Israel, it would be probably 5 million sometimes. So that's probably, and the work, diverse works. We have many works.
I don't know if it's still the case, but I understand that there used to be a Samaritan community in Cholon. So your film didn't relate to that at all. I'm wondering why you didn't mention them. Can you tell us a little bit about that community and how it relates to the community on Mount Gerizim?
Yeah, and there is another community in Holland since the 50s. Ben Zvi made a lot about making the Samaritan coming back in Tel Aviv, in Holland. It's an hour movie. So I met Abood and Brito, so I decided to focus on the Samaritan of Nablus. But yes, there is another movie to make about the Samaritan of Holon, and it's really interesting because half of the community now is in Holon and the other half in Nablus. And if we speak about the new generation, it's for me it's like two different way of living. For example, the Samaritan in Nablus don't do the military services in Tzal for obvious reason, but the Samaritan in Holland do the military services. They speak Hebrew. Abood, Brito, and the Samaritan in Nablus speak Arabic. So yeah, it's but maybe you can talk about it.
Yeah, some of you might be wondering why did the community become in Holon? It's mainly because of financial reasons. There's a small family who found some job opportunities in Tel Aviv and they moved there. But ultimately, we are on the same level. But like there is a few differences, like you said, but we have the same faith, the same principles. Although recently there's 2 synagogues in Holon. To make everyone happy, basically, air conditioning on Shabbat is not allowed, right? But this became outrageous in Tel Aviv because it's really becoming hot in Shabbat. So now we have 2 air conditioning, actually 2 synagogues. One synagogue uses air conditioning and one that doesn't. That's how you make everyone happy.
Can I just say that's
I mean?
so Jewish.
It is, isn't it?
So Jewish.
And we have fights over there always. And when their women come to our mountain, when they come to our mountain, check out the guys trying to make relations with their girls because they have more girls slightly than ours.
Oh, we have another question up top.
I've been told that there's a Samaritan community in New York.
Okay.
What? Is that news to you, Abood?
I did hear about that, but I wouldn't call it a community yet, I guess. I've heard that there's a few people who've found out about the Samaritan faith, and they believe that they might have kept the original Torah, but I don't know if it's a community or not. That's the thing. But I kind of thought about making my own community here and living here, because I really love New York so far. But I hope my family doesn't hear it.
I've got 2 questions. First of all, I'm friends with Benny Tzedekah. I
Scholar.
heard he's not doing well.
Yeah, he had a minor stroke in the
is he?
brain, but he's better now a
Okay,
little
good.
bit. So
Benny Tzedakah is a Samaritan living in Holland, and he created the AB Samaritan News,
right.
which is the new newspaper of Samaritan.
These Ukrainian women, are these Jewish women?
oh no, actually, some of them are Jewish. Some of them were Christian backgrounds.
Really?
But yeah, no, you don't have to do just Jewish.
But, and
roles.
these Ukrainians were from Israel?
No.
They were
No.
living in Palestine. Oh.
No, I have to say that they picked Ukrainian because Ukraine, a lot of Ukrainian women made wedding with guys, even in Europe, in France, in Germany, everywhere. There is a city in Ukraine called Kherson, and it's the city of brides. Yeah. And now with the conflict with Russia, they even more want to, yeah. So.
Hi, great movie. I appreciate your work. I wanted to ask you about education to the children. Do most of them or you guys speak Hebrew? And do you teach them Jewish traditions as well?
Yeah, the ones who live in Tel Aviv, they speak Hebrew as a mother tongue language. The ones who live in Mount Gerizim speak Arabic. Education-wise, we go to, if you're a Samaritan living in Tel Aviv, you go to Israeli schools, and vice versa, you go to Palestinian schools. And we have really good educations. Everyone almost goes to university and always gets a degree. It's really common in the community. And we learn ancient Hebrew at the age of 6 years, like you saw. So we have people who volunteer to teach it.
Yeah, look how we speak English. Like it's.
Yeah, my English was thanks
I
to
wish I can speak like this.
thanks to Cartoon Network.
Regarding the role of women, I noticed that there weren't really any women, here I am, in roles outside of the home. Do you foresee anywhere in the near future that women will play a bigger role or any role?
So you said you noticed. Well, I think the documentary was really short on this subject. There's definitely a huge role in the community. Like the women control our houses, man, because we have shortage of women. They are really respected, definitely, and they go freely to any job or any school, and it's. I wouldn't say. I mean, there is a few. I think there's a few things that we should definitely add, like. They should come more to the synagogue, although they do come in the festivals. But I'm not sure why this culture didn't continue of them coming to the synagogue. But a good point, I guess.
I have to say that I would like to put more Samaritan women in the movie, but I was a stranger, I was a man, and I came single. And I have to say that I think it was like a menace, a threat. A threat, yeah, a threat for them, and it was easier to make a movie with this guy than with women. But I spoke with women without problem, but with the camera and everything, it was okay. And I decided to make the movie about this friend couple. Yeah.
We have time for one more question.
There's one down here.
Are the Samaritans free to choose their vocation and/or careers? There was that moment in the movie when he said, you can't be a doctor, you can't be an actor.
Can't be a football manager.
Well, yeah, definitely. You have the freedom to choose any job you want, as long as it's kosher, I guess. You know what I mean? Because, for example, we can't be a doctor. He said that because if you touch a dead body, you need to do some kind of a washing ritual. That's the only reason why. So you can technically be a doctor. Can you be famous? Why not? I don't understand why not. I mean, you can be famous and keep Shabbat. Am I? You can be famous and keep Shabbat, but yeah, certain jobs might be hard, I guess.
Before we finish, I wanted to ask, or just make one last statement. One of the things that I find fascinating about this film is it really shows this turning point within the Samaritan community and really the divide, I'd say, between the old generation and the new generation. And, we're seeing here a completely modern man who learns from Cartoon Network. And I see you're covered in technology. And we see your grandfather, and a tradition that leads back thousands of years, probably your grandfather holding on to that pretty tightly. And I think this film might actually serve as an important document of that turning point. Is that tear in the community and this change that's about to happen, possibly, Netflix coming in and all, is this something that is very much on the forefront of your awareness there?
Well, definitely, technology is making it in the community. Like I said, air conditioning, and I think, for example, one thing that didn't make it still in the community is hot stones. Like on Shabbat, they use the hot stones. I don't know why we don't have that. I think because a hot plate that they use on Shabbat.
Like a platter.
We don't have that. Also, although that's not technology, but it is making its way, and I don't know if it's going to be affecting it so much. One thing that we should point out is that internet is making the new generation more aware of the world, and they have connections with other people now easier. So who knows whose Samaritan will have any connection with a woman, and he decides to go and not come back. I mean, who knows? Do we have seculars in the community? You might ask. We don't know. Everyone is a keeper in the community, so.
Yeah, and the Samaritan refused to open to the world for 7 years, and they almost disappeared. So, yeah, they didn't choose to open. The new generation opened the gate because it was a question of survive. So.
Yeah, and I think I should add also, if you noticed Brito, he talked about when I asked him what are the chances of you marrying a Jewish girl, I remember one night before going to the U.S., I asked him this question again, and he said, I don't know this time. I don't know what that means, but I think he's running out of options.
Samaritan 2.
There we go.
Thank you guys so much.
I want to thank you all for being here. Thank you for leading this wonderful conversation. It's an honor to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining us. Up next, don't miss more films. First of all, I should mention